I don't know how much value I have in this universe, but I do know that I made a few people happier than they would have been without me. And as long as I know that, I'm as rich as I ever need to be.
Hey kid, what time is that?
It's time to refresh.
Back once again with another episode. This is It's Time to Refresh podcast, and it's episode 53. We've got a very, very special guest on today because I'm an absolute fanboy, and it's Josh Butler, formerly known as Mr. when you did that hard dance stuff, but currently smashing it within the sort of house scene.
Yeah, nice one.
Absolute pleasure to have you on, mate. Probably the biggest guest, I'd say, so far.
Oh, cheers, man. Well, you know what? I messaged you, didn't I? Because I started watching a few of these podcasts, and I was like, yeah, I love what you're doing.
Was it a nostalgic itch that where you've seen it and it's like, I wonder what that scene's up to nowadays?
Part of it was that. Part of it was the first episode I saw was with Dave Gray, General Bounce. So he was a mate of mine from back in the day. So I was intrigued to see what he was doing.
Yeah, absolute legend. We had Dave on a couple of weeks
Big
ago.
up Dave Gray.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. You put me on to people. He's actually just messaged me yesterday saying, I've got so-and-so sorted for you, because I tried to reach out to somebody and I couldn't get anything back from them. And he's like, I've sorted you out.
Happy days.
Nice one, Dave.
Yeah.
That's two great guests. But yeah, how you doing, mate? All right.
Good, man. Yeah, it's been a busy week. I can't believe it's Friday already, to be honest. I've got a deadline for Kerry Chandler's label.
Right.
That's due in Monday.
Right.
They wanted it today, but I can extend it to Monday. Because the thing is, it's coming out on vinyl in June.
Right.
And because the pressing time is so long, it takes so long for the plants to press these days, they need that kind of lead-up time.
So I'm holding you back here. Is that what it is?
Nah, it's sound.
No,
I need a little break every now and then. I get lost in the little loop, you know what I mean? And it's good to break out of that.
Just saying that, like, June is quite, I think, what we're in sort of middle of April now. June's quite good for a response time for vinyl nowadays, because there's only limited places. You see people putting orders in, it's like 9 months for pressing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's actually pretty good. So as I start off every episode, what did you have for tea last night?
Oh, what did I have for tea last night? I had a boss tea last night. Sausage, eggs and chips.
Nice, nice.
Yeah,
How'd you have your eggs? Fried?
It was fried.
Yeah. No worries. Class. I just say that's a little icebreaker, do you know what I mean? Because, I don't know, I just love food as well, so it's one of them.
Proper English tea last night.
Yeah. Obviously, we'll get into your story and stuff like that, but you just came back from New Zealand. Well, you actually went on holiday, but what's the food like over there in comparison to here?
In New Zealand, it's very similar, to be honest. Fish and chips and like pies.
Do they not have traditional stuff? Like
they have traditional Maori food,
Yeah.
which is called a hungi, and that's like the Maori food is like tribal food, so they dig a hole in the ground, they put fish in like palm leaves, and then they bury it and have a fire on top, so it all cooks underneath.
Yeah.
But I mean, modern New Zealand food is very
British.
similar to it. Yeah.
Right, okay, that's somewhere I've never been, to be honest with you. But yeah, that's interesting. So what I'm going to do is, for those who don't know, obviously there might be people watching this who just know you as Josh Butler, the house producer, who you've sort of made a name for yourself within that scene, actually a massive name for yourself. But before that, like way back when, you were doing the hard dance, bounce music and stuff like that. So I just want to ask you, who's Josh? Like, where did it all start for Josh?
Started in Warrington.
Right.
So I was probably like 10 or 11 when I got introduced to dance music and just fell in love with it, really. Was listening to radio shows from like Pete Tong on Radio 1 and Judge Jules and all that, to also Lee Butler in Liverpool and Radio City, Plastic Surgery. I was listening to that every week. And obviously he was pushing all like Scouse House and Donk and stuff. So I got fascinated, especially by like the donk sound itself. I was like, because when I got into production, I couldn't figure out how to make that sound, and for years, man, I was like, fucking hell, how's he doing that?
Do you not think though, when you discover how to do it, it's like the simplest sound
it is
to make in a like a synth.
But just generally fascinated by music and technology and mixing them together, and then. God, it's like, how do I give you the full extended story here? So
take as long as you need, mate. One question I want to ask: when you grew up in school, What was the big sound? Was it the donk sound? Because Warrington was very.
No, it wasn't. Not in my group of mates anyway. A lot of my mates, we were all skaters.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So like my mates were listening to Blink 182 and
nice.
yeah,
nice.
Limp Bizkit and stuff. And
Yeah.
I love all that, but for me, like the dance side of it really like grabbed a hold of me.
Right.
So
You were the only one in that group sort of thing that was into
I
that
was
then?
for a long time. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean later on they started all coming out, and you know when we were old enough to party, everybody got
Yeah.
into it. But
You understand it then, don't you?
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, what was I saying? So yeah, it was probably like between 10 and 12, just like getting into it and playing around with EJ and Music 2000 on PlayStation and stuff.
Yeah.
Making a few tracks on there, and then we moved to New Zealand as a family, and that gave me a lot of time to sit down and like really hone my craft with making music. And
Yeah.
I got a copy of Reason and Cubase, and yeah, at the beginning, obviously didn't really know anyone over there. It took me a while to build a good group of mates. So I just make tunes for ages.
What sort of years were this? And what
Would have been 13 when we moved over there. So I was in New Zealand from 13 to 17.
Yeah.
And in that time, I was learning to produce, and I was still very tuned into the UK scene.
Yeah.
Because New Zealand music scene's all drum and bass and dubstep
Right.
and hip hop. So like finding bounce records over there was not happening.
Yeah. So was social media a thing at this point then? Were you on socials?
No, MySpace was just taking off.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was no proper social media. That term wasn't being thrown around.
So how were you sort of discovering new bounce music then?
Listening to it online, still listening
Yeah.
to like Lee Butler.
Oh, right. Okay, that's interesting.
Would have been in the middle of the day there in New Zealand, but it's like Friday night. Over here.
Class.
And then I'd order DVDs and CDs and have them posted over.
Yeah. So at what point, like between 13 and 17, did you make a tune where you thought, this is actually not too bad, this?
Yeah, it's probably a trance tune because I was only really making trance then. It wasn't really hard house at that point.
Right.
So made this trance tune, and then my mate Brendan at school, his brother lived in Auckland and had a radio show,
Right.
which was all drum and bass. But I sent in this tune, and I was like, mate, I was fucking proud of it. You know, I was buzzing off this, and he actually played it on the radio.
Excellent.
Even though he was like, you know, it's quite a bit different to the show, but we're going to play it anyway.
That's good.
So that was the first taste where I was like, wow, could really do something with this.
Yeah. Have you still got the tune?
No, I don't think so.
No.
No, I don't
Not
even know
locked
what
away
it
in the hard
was.
drive somewhere.
I've definitely got old tracks from that time,
era, yeah,
but
yeah.
I don't know about that one specifically.
Did you get any response off it at all?
No.
No, nothing. You just got
Nothing.
played and that was it.
That was it. It was just me and my mum in the bedroom, like, yeah.
Class. So you've sort of self-taught yourself while you've been out there. What changed after that? When you came back and you started like networking with people? Or?
Yeah, exactly. So, finished school over there, and then it's like, you're 17 and it's like, what are you going to do with your life? And I was like, I'd love to give the music thing a go.
Yeah.
Knew it wasn't going to happen staying in New Zealand. So I moved back here and went to St Helens College to do a BTEC in music production.
Were your parents supportive of what you were doing with
Yeah,
the music
they were.
thing?
Yeah, it took a while, I think.
Yeah.
And my dad was always a bit like, I don't know, maybe you should just go and get a trade or whatever. It's
Yeah.
it's
The
fine.
typical
That's
thing,
what
yeah.
parents are there for. But I was like, no, I'm gonna take the risk.
Excellent. It's good that they back you up though as well, because
Yeah.
it gives you that little bit of not. Do you know, you see some parents and it's they'll maybe sit on your back a bit to push you to get a normal life as such, because a musician is not necessarily the normal life, is it? Like it's not you go to work at 9, finish at 5. It's not your 9 to 5 sort of job. So
No, and it's quite easy to fail as well. If you put
Absolutely.
all your eggs in one basket like I did, there's a very good chance it might not have worked out. But
yeah,
yeah, I think that was part of the motivation for me as well. It's like
it needs
there's no
to work.
plan B.
Yeah. So when you came over here and like you came back and stuff like that, what was the like you just in your head you're like, I'm gonna do this. This needs to sort of happen.
Not really. No, I was just like enjoying going to college and meeting more people that were interested in what I was doing, or not even what I was doing. They were doing their own thing.
Yeah.
But just people who were interested in music. And I met a couple of lads who were from Wigan, and they were like quite involved with the donk scene and like Power Records and all that.
Yeah.
So they sort of brought me into that a little bit more.
Excellent.
Yeah, that was really good. And they'd like bring me CDs of all these new tunes that they've got and that. So
Is there anyone of note who went to the college with you? Of like
yeah. Well, not in our year, but a couple of years before us, Eddie Halliwell was there.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So when I found that out, I was like, holy shit, people actually do make it in the music business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's great. So did you give yourself a time frame of like, I'll do this for a year, 2 years, whatever, and then if it doesn't work out, I'll go and get a real job.
Yeah, kind of, but it wasn't as like hard and fast as that.
Yeah.
Basically did 3 years at that college and then went to university in Leeds to do music technology.
Yeah.
And I suppose it was like, if it doesn't work out by the end of this degree, then we're going to have to reassess.
Yeah, yeah. See, like, I find that quite inspiring, do you know what I mean? Like, because I never had the big balls to be able to just go, I'm going to try and do this and do what I can. Because you see a lot of people who follow what they want to do in life and they'll work, I don't know, say like a subway job, like part-time, just to sort of make ends meet and stuff like that with following their dream. And I just think it takes a lot of determination to do that type of thing. Do you know where I'm coming from?
Well, I was working those type of part-time jobs as well.
Yeah.
I was studying and I was working at Argos and I went through loads of the part-time jobs. And then at the end of university, a lot happened when I was at uni in terms of like progression with my career.
Yeah.
But at the end of that, I started working part-time at this wedding catering company in Leeds.
Yeah.
So that was like every weekend, maybe 2-3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday sometimes. Mm-hmm. It was long shifts, but it was good money.
Yeah.
So I could afford to just work a few days at the weekend and then produce music all through the week.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
That was the bridge, really.
Yeah, excellent. So where does the bounce come into it then, or the hard dance scene? At what point was it the Wiganers who give you these CDs that?
Well, like I said, I was already shipping CDs over from like Liverpool and that to New Zealand, so I was obsessed with the music, but didn't know anybody in the scene really. So I met those two lads. They were dead sound and like introduced me to a few people. Took me to Power Records and the first like record shop I'd been to that. So I was like, wow, putting tunes on. I'm like, oh my god, there's so much gold in here.
Yeah.
But yeah, nothing really like to note happened at college.
Yeah.
I learnt a lot, made some great connections, but nothing like career-wise really happened until I got to Leeds.
Right. So who was your first connection, sort of say, to the scene? So like, obviously, this before you get your first record signed or before your first gig, what came first?
For getting a record signed was the first thing.
Right, and how did that connection happen?
I think a lot of it was on MSN.
Right.
Yeah. So thinking back now, Matt Dawson. I don't know if you know of him.
Name rings a bell. Hard dance producer, isn't it? Yeah. Or DJ.
He had Encore Records back in the day, and he signed my first record.
Yeah. Right.
So
what was that? Oh, in fact, I come across this the other day.
I think it was called Back to the Island or something.
Yeah,
it's
on
like
trance. It's still out. It's still out there, isn't it? Yeah.
I think it's still on Beatport.
Yeah. So this must have been, if I've looked at these dates right and I memorise it right, is it 2011, 2012?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Boom. See, I do my research and stuff, mate. You know what I mean?
So he would have been my first like proper connection or someone who gave me a break.
Yeah.
And there was also a guy called Freddie, who I've never met in person, which
Even to
is
this
quite
day?
weird to this day.
Yeah.
He was a lad from Manchester, but we would talk all the time on MSN, and he'd always listen to my tunes. He didn't really produce himself, but he was mad into like hard house.
Yeah.
And he was really interested in what I was doing. And then he introduced me to Matt Dawson, and then a few other people, and then like started getting introduced to like Andy Whitby and a few other people like that from that scene.
Right. So, were you getting any support on these tracks that you were doing? Like, were you seeing them played out anywhere?
No, not that I know of. I was still probably wasn't even going out at this point.
Yeah.
And there was no social media like there is today, so you didn't see videos and that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe they got played out. I've no idea.
Yeah. So the way I'm picking it up as now, I've always seen somewhere like Leeds as a hub of so much culture and music. Like a lot of my friends from school went there, and they went, and a lot of them got into like hip hop. A lot of them got into D&B, and then obviously you've seen the hard house nights that are there. There's literally a bassline was huge in Leeds as well. That was another thing. It's like a big, massive, like boiling pot of music. So is this where it really started? Like, this is this person, and
yeah, absolutely.
And you were getting your sort of taste buds filled.
Yeah. So like, well, it went from, you know, being on MSN chatting to these people who I'd never met.
Yeah.
And then I started going to Tidy Weekenders, and I actually got to put like faces to names then. Right. So like,
what was your first one?
First Tidy Weekend, I think it was 12.
12?
Yeah, it was a little bit late, you know.
Yeah.
I think it was towards the end of the Tidy Weekenders, really, but loved it, man.
Did you?
Yeah, what a time. Been to quite a few since then.
So when was that the first sort of big stage that you've seen? Because they really do the decor and everything on the main arena. Was that the sort of that could be me. Was that the sort of?
Yeah, I suppose it was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
interesting.
So there also like Global Gathering,
Yep.
Creamfields, all that. I was going out to these parties a lot, and then I moved to Leeds, and started to get involved with their scene, and met like Sam and Dino, Tidy DJs, Cheeky Boys.
Yeah.
And then was going out to Stinky's all the time.
Yeah.
Stinky's Peep House. Rest in peace.
Rave On was there.
Yeah, Rave On. Yeah, and also Back to Basics, which was more house and techno, but amazing night.
I've just seen a news report on that like 2 weeks ago, maybe, that it's going now, isn't it? It's like getting knocked down, is it? If I'm...
I think it's gone.
Oh, it's gone.
Yeah, I believe it's been knocked down now. Yeah.
Oh wow. Somewhere I've wanted to go to, but never had the chance to go.
It's a messy little place.
But yes, like when I was getting into the sort of hard dance stuff, I've been in the bounce stuff for years. But when I sort of dipped my toe in that sort of thing, that rave on and stuff like that was popping off in there at the time, and I thought, I'll have to check that out at some point.
Yeah, and they did boat parties and stuff as well. So.
Excellent.
Yeah, that was really good, you know, and that was when I was like making a lot of hard house at the time and collaborating with a lot of people. There was another night in Leeds as well called Killer Tracks.
Killer Tracks, I can't say I've heard of that.
That was at Beaverworks. They gave me some of my first gigs.
Yeah.
That was a guy called Kieran and a girl called Emma Cheeky Beats who was running that.
Right. So then, obviously, you mentioned the Cheeky Boys just there. This is where I first heard of you, so this must have been 2012, 2013. Yeah. You got signed to Cheeky, and you were one of their original artists. This was pre-Dave Gray, haven't it? So it would have been Ian and... Andy, yeah. So how did that come along then? How did you...
I think I just met them on a night out, to be honest, and really got on with them. You know, they were a little bit older than me, but they really took me under the wing. Like, I'd go round to Andy's house on a Friday night, and we'd have a few beers and have a mix. And again, they just loved it. We all had a mutual love for that kind of music, which was quite hard to find at that time because... Yeah. It did feel like it was dying off a bit.
It was quite a low point for all hard dance really at that time. Even like Wigan Pier closing, the lot of the big brands within the bounce scene were even they weren't getting the turnouts. So it is known as a sort of bit of a dark period. Yeah. Where it's like it's sometimes even with hard house and stuff like that. I've got friends who are local. Like no one would openly admit to being like, oh, I'm into hard house because it's like, or I'm into bounce because it was like...
It's a dirty word.
Yeah, it's a dirty word,
It was, absolutely. We all felt like misfits, you know, going out to these nights, and sometimes they were dead.
Yeah.
You know, but we loved it enough to keep going and just support the scene. And then, you know, like the cheeky thing was starting to get some legs, and like they got a gig in London.
Yeah.
Took me down to play with them in London.
Where was that at, sorry?
I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
I think it was Elephant and Castle sort of area. Couldn't tell you the club name though.
Right.
But yeah, mate. Then like I could see what was happening to that scene, and as much as I loved it, it was like, you know, I need to make a career out of this as well.
Yeah.
So I was also going out to things like Basics and Technicolor, all
Yeah.
these house and techno nights. So I started dabbling in that and making some house music. And
Right. So who was your first connection with in the house scene then? Who was the one where it was like you've went out and met them, or you've talked to them on MSN and they've sort of introduced you to what's what?
yeah, MSN was gone at this point.
Right.
I wasn't using it at this point. But I think the first big contact was Darius Sarosian, because
Right.
he lived like 3 streets away from me in Leeds.
Oh, right.
And he was really like making waves at that time.
Yeah. I can't say I know who he is, so apologies, but is he a DJ or producer?
Yeah, he's a DJ,
Oh, okay.
producer, still going now. Yeah,
Right.
he used to run a record shop in Leeds.
Right.
Yeah, he's gone on to do really well. So he helped me out a lot in the early days.
Yeah. So you sending him your music at that point, and he was giving you feedback, or?
Yeah, and he was playing them out in Mint Club and stuff.
Oh,
and
excellent.
yeah, it was a really good time. Yeah, then got a couple of tracks signed to smaller labels. One of them was Off Recordings,
Yeah.
which was. I was saying that wasn't even that small at the time. That was one of the first big releases.
Yeah.
That was probably the biggest release at that time, actually. Yeah, Andre Con's label Off Recordings, that was huge at that time. But it was just a B-side of something else.
What
But
was
that-
the tune called, sorry?
It was called Bass Play.
Bass Player.
Yeah.
It rings a bell. So,
So that did actually like put me on the map a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I was sending demos out like mad, you know, I was sending these CDs out to different addresses of labels that I could find here, there and everywhere. And
Yeah.
one of them was MTA, Chasing Status's label.
Yeah.
Didn't hear anything back for a few weeks. And then one day I got a call from Will from Chasing Status
Oh, wow.
saying that he wanted me to invite me to London, and he loved the tune. And they
Excellent.
wanted to sign it, yeah. And so that was Got a Feeling, that came out in 2013. And that was kind of the big break that I've been waiting for.
Excellent, mate. So did you notice it just everything changed for you from there?
Absolutely,
so,
yeah.
excellent. Because I think a lot of people who'll be watching this will be watching you, as I say, who follow you in the house scene. It's not like an overnight success thing where Chasing Status have just found you and that's it. You've grinded away doing the hard dance stuff, and you've dabbled in the house bits and that, and then that's when the ball started rolling. It's not just
It was a 10-year
Yeah.
overnight success.
yeah.
Because it was literally grinding for 10 years with very little happening,
Yeah.
just being a hobby.
Yeah.
You know, I'd have to, a lot of time I was paying to get to gigs, and then like, wouldn't get, they'd agree to pay us something at the end of the night, but then you can't find the promoter conveniently.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you know what I mean?
I've had that.
Yeah, I think we all have. But anyway, it went from that to then people like actually requesting me to come, and it was much more legit.
Yeah. So what was your first sort of big gig then? What was the one where you're like, I think I'm onto something here. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
It's hard to say like the first big one, but I remember I played for Mixmag in London,
Right.
and that was a moment where I was like, oh shit, I've done something now. Like,
Yeah.
that's
You've made waves
one
within
for the history
really.
books. Yeah.
Yeah. So go from like sort of 2013 to like 2014 and stuff like that. Are you just hitting the studio all the time, making new music for the gigs, and is that the cycle at that point?
Yeah, kind of. But I actually went the other way. So like, Got a Feeling took off and had a life of its own.
Yeah.
And I didn't really want that kind of commercial success, to be honest, because we got offers from Sony and like all
Yeah.
these crazy offers. I was going on Radio 1 doing interviews. But I was like, hang on a minute. I was like, I don't really want to be a pop star.
Yeah.
So like, let's just pump the brakes a minute. And I started writing really underground records again.
Yeah.
And I for a while, I was trying to figure out how to get donks into house music.
You can hear it in your tunes even now.
Yeah.
I've obviously looked through your back catalogue, and according to Spotify, your biggest tune is your remix of Carl Cox, I Want You Forever.
Yeah.
And even on that one, when it
Yeah,
kicks in the
yeah.
dogs there, I was like,
Ba-dum-bum.
yeah. You have to squeeze it in somewhere.
But so yeah, after Got a Feeling, I went right back underground and did something called No Frills, No Frills dub,
How did people respond to that? If you don't mind me asking. So you've obviously got a feeling. It's got you a bit of notoriety, but then you as you say, pulling back and going to the underground. How were people responding to that?
Really well.
Oh, were they?
Yeah, really well.
That's
Yeah, I mean,
interesting.
so it was on Kerry Chandler's label. He was like, a pioneer of deep house. Very, very well respected guy in the house music scene. So for me to be associated with him was massive. It gave me a lot of credibility where it could have gone from like overnight success with Got a Feeling, and then fizzled out.
Yeah.
But I think bringing it back to like more credible underground music was definitely the right move.
Excellent, mate. I love it. I really love that. Like, it just shows you're quite a humble guy as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you don't mind me saying that.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah.
But it goes to show that, like, just because your tune's blown up, you don't need to become a wanker. do you know where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
As blunt as that is. Do you know
I
what
didn't
mean?
enjoy having like, that sounds contradictory now because I'm doing one now, but like interviews all the time.
Yeah.
Like I remember Red Bull wanted to interview me after a set at a festival, and I was shitting my pants, mate. I was like, I didn't end up putting it out because I looked so nervous on camera. I was like, no, can't do this.
I love that on the tick box. He didn't do the Red Bull interview, but he did the It's Time
Do
to
this.
Refresh one. No, I'm only joking, mate. I'm only joking.
But you know what I'm saying? I'm not that type of guy to be
Yeah.
like out in the public eye or whatever. So I think I was into club music, so it was like go right back underground. I want to be in a dark room playing beats on a fat sound system. That's what it was always about.
I love that. So a big moment for you. Really, you caught the deep house boom as well. That sort of time, because
it was great timing, really.
Yeah, because it was massive commercially, but it also put a lot of eyes on the underground sort of deep house scene. I remember like you going to any sort of club anywhere in the country, and deep was the cool thing. It's, do you know what I mean? Like it was the in thing of that time. So you've definitely just timed everything perfectly.
Yeah, well, and actually now, like you could argue underground isn't even a thing at all anymore.
Yeah,
Things like El Row, they play that kind of music, or Solid Grooves.
Yeah.
They play all that kind of music, but it's a massive industry now. They play huge festivals. Everyone knows all the DJs' faces, so it's kind of evolved into what I wanted to avoid anyway.
Yeah.
It's just like with social media, it's unavoidable.
Yeah, I think this is just my personal view, but I remember when I used to buy the CD packs, or the compilation CD, say like whether it be like a bounce one where it'd be like a recorded night live, or whether it be a cream CD where it's just a compilation. You were like, oh, this is mixed by, say, Judge Jules, and I would like hunt to see just what that person looks like, so I can put name to face.
Yeah.
So I'm buying mixed mag, right? That's so and so, that's so and so. But when you get the underground CD packs, it's like, who's this person? Who's this person? And it's like, when you meet them in person, it's like, oh, you're the person I've listened to for all this time.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas now you go on social media, right?
You can send him a message.
Yeah. Well, Josh Butler coming. Oh, that's who that is, right? Okay, I'll keep an eye out for him when he's on at the club.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, that has pros and cons, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's been amazing for my career as well, having social media.
Yeah.
But yeah, mate.
And so that was a big sort of turning point for you there, do you think? Yeah.
Yeah, and then for the next few years, like I just did try and keep it really underground, and I was working with people like Sidney Charles and Sante and Joris Vaughan, who I'm still working with now. And these are all like tech house producers.
Do you find that the way it, for them few years, there was just opportunity after opportunity, because you've set this path. People know what you're about. People know the Josh Butler sound and what he's about. So then they will come to you. Whereas before, when you're like messaging, handing demos out, nobody knows who you are necessarily. But now they know your sound. That draws their energy to you. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, nailed it. Like people like Ellie Goulding's management were coming to me for remixes, and
Right.
Fatboy Slim did a remix for him,
Yeah.
the Carl Cox one. So yeah, I think crafting that sound and those years, like if you go and listen to No Frills Dub, that is me cracking the mixture between donk and underground house music, and I was like, yes, fucking nailed it now. So I tried to stick with that sound, and I think that's what people got to know me for. Yeah, the kind of minimal, like hollow bass sound.
Yeah.
Very dance floor driven music.
Do you? I know this is going to sound so maybe counterproductive because obviously you're still writing music now, but do you look back at what you were doing then and think, fuck me, I had some good ideas then?
Yeah.
I do that all the time. It's weird, isn't it?
Well,
It's
I'll
like,
go back to them now and like try and reinvent the ideas, because
Yeah.
I've got a lot of stuff sat there that never got finished.
Yeah.
So if I'm stuck for an idea, currently I'll just go back through the folders and
Yeah.
there's tons of stuff sat there that I've never finished, just little loops.
Excellent, mate. As I say, I've talked with you off camera. We talked that you've done the courses online where you can actually watch you make tunes, and then if you want to, you can plug your Patreon now if you want.
I've gone from doing those courses to starting Patreon.
Yeah.
So yeah, just like me noodling around in the studio, recording the sessions and then uploading it there. There's a nice little community growing on there now.
That's fantastic, mate. I love that. It's what I do with this. It's you've got them fans who genuinely appreciate you and want your content, and it's not being driven by a brand. It's not being driven by any sponsors or anything like that. It's just you to them, and that's
Yes,
it. That's
exactly, yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah, because I get people messaging me on Instagram all the time, like, can you listen to this tune? Can you do this for me, that for me? And I'd love to help everyone, but I have my own shit to do in the week as well. So the Patreon gives me an opportunity to like help people, but for them to give me a bit back for my time.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely, mate. So you launched that about 3-4 weeks ago, was it?
Yeah,
Something like
yeah.
that. And obviously it's just in its infancy at the moment and it's growing. But how you finding it, having that community there and having sort of recording yourself? Obviously you're saying you don't like the interviews and stuff like that, so
I think I've grown into that now.
Yeah.
Years of doing it. Like the Red Bull one was just, I think I got overwhelmed because I'm like, oh my god, it's Red Bull, like.
And it's the
how
first
many
big
people-
one as well.
Yeah, it was
isn't
the first big one. I
Yeah.
was like, oh my god, so many people are going to see this. And I just shit my pants.
Amazing.
But now, I've done that many of them and built it up. Me just sitting talking to the camera and making tunes, it's natural now. Yeah.
I want to ask as well. Obviously, we were talking about things starting to take off there. When did it's a really stereotypical question this, but when did the Ibiza thing happen? When did you first go there? When was the internationals starting to take off?
Yeah, good question. My memory's a bit foggy, man, from all the parties. But I think it probably would have been about 2015, something like that.
Right.
Maybe even 2014. I think the first gig I got played for Ministry's Sound at Eden.
Right. Excellent, mate.
Yeah, and then it just grew from there. I started going back every year, and eventually got residencies.
Yeah.
I had a residency at Sankey's for a few years for tribal sessions.
Excellent. What was the first year you did it, if you don't mind me asking?
For the first year I did the residency, maybe 2016, something like that.
Excellent.
Yeah, maybe
Excellent.
17.
Do you find the crowd different out there to playing in England, in clubs in England, sort of say?
It's a mix in it, because a lot of it is English people there anyway.
Yeah.
But you do get a lot of Italians and a lot of Spanish, and they love it. Yeah, they party, especially South Americans as well. They party differently.
Yeah, I've found that when you play abroad, and even if it's British people who's there, British people's mindset changes. They're more open-minded. You can play more club-driven stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're here, sometimes you've got to keep it on the cusp of something they'll know, but like drifting in and out. Whereas they're there on, say it was a Ibiza, for instance. They're there on the island. They've paid that entry into that club. You're playing underground bangers.
Absolutely. They're all more open-minded there, definitely.
Yeah.
And again, same in South America. You can play whatever you want. You can play the most obscure records. And
how did you end up going out that way then? Was that just through the growth of going out to say like Ibiza and being in the UK and stuff like that? Because you are a busy person when it comes to regards to travel. You seem to be a bit.
I think my sound just translates really well to that part of the world. South America's always been really big for house, and especially like progressive. People like Sasha and Digweed, they do really, really well in South America with that sound. So yeah, that translated really well, and just started getting. It just grows. It just snowballs. You know, you do one weekend a year in South America, then more people hear you, and then more promoters hear about you, and then started going to North America, and like that's really going off now for house and techno in North America.
It's really grown on them as well, hasn't it?
Yeah.
They've developed their own branch of it as well. It's almost as if house music was made there, came to England, and then went back there, but they've just like evolved it again.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah, because they had the EDM bubble thing, didn't they? And the EDM was huge over there, and then that burst, and they started digging a bit deeper. Yeah. So there's now a crossover. You know, people like Fisher and Chris Lake, they sit right in the middle of that EDM and underground.
I see because obviously I've got this mindset of you can never know too much. I think I can produce a track to a certain level, but I'm always looking for like, oh, how does Josh make tunes, or how does this person make tunes? So then I'm always looking online, and you see like producers, do you know? I'll say this. I'm thinking now. My mind's gone blank. Zen World. Do you know?
I don't.
He does online tutorials online,
right.
And he's I want to sound so wrong if I'm wrong. I think he's a Hispanic guy, but he lives in America.
Okay.
And he's producing stuff, and he's clearly in that underground American scene, but he's got everything that he's producing. He's pulling it from, say, Europe, or like it's all over, and you can see how they're incorporating our British sound, or say European sound, and making it into their own. Do you know what I mean?
But it's funny, isn't it? Because I look back to the original American sound of house music from the late 80s, early 90s, and that's where I get my influences from, with people like Marshall Jefferson and Todd Terry and that.
It's all one big circle, though, isn't it?
It is, of course it is, yeah.
What it is. Have you had any of your house heroes reach out to you and be like, I like this, or you've seen them support it?
Yeah, well, such? You know, one better than that, really. I actually did a collaboration series when I launched my label. I have a label called Origins Records.
Yeah.
So to launch that, you know, it was all about celebrating the roots of house music and the pioneers. So I did a collaboration series with some of these like OGs.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So Marshall, turns out Marshall Jefferson lives in Manchester. Yeah. So I went and met Marshall. Went for Pizza Express with him, which was quite surreal.
The most like amazing upmarket thing ever. Yeah.
2-for-1 Wednesdays with Marshall. And then so I did a tune with him, and then one with Todd Terry and Kerry, who I'd already worked with at that point.
How do you find it when you were working with these people? By the way, I didn't know you did do that. I just wanted to get onto that the label subject. How did you find it when you were working with these people that it's going to sound odd, but you weren't replicating their sound, but you were taking a lot of inspiration from them. Yeah. And now it's come full circle. You're sitting in the studio with them, writing with them. Yeah. So how was, obviously I know it's surreal, but is it?
Well, I think because I was tuned into the younger generation. You know, Marshall's must be in his 60s now. Yeah. So at the time, like a lot of the kids that were going out and partying and raving, they didn't know anything about the roots of it, really. Marshall didn't know.
It's only the diehards who really do know, do they?
Yeah, exactly. So like my idea for the label was to try and bridge that gap, that generational gap. Yeah. And it was a mutually beneficial thing, because they got some of my fans, and I got credibility from working with them.
Yeah, absolutely. See, when you're sitting there and you're writing a tune, as you say, they are of the older generation now. Are they still as inspired when they're getting in the studio with you? Are they still as driven to get them grooves going as they were?
Yeah, well, Marshall especially had a lot of good ideas around vocals. I remember he had these choir vocals that he'd been sat on for a while and didn't really know what to do with them. So I helped him produce a track around those vocals. Excellent. Yeah, it's called In Time, if anybody wants to check that out.
Go and check it out. Go and support him. Every play counts on Spotify. So you were talking about Origins. How did that come about? What made you think, I need to do this?
Because I was starting to get to know a lot of these people, and I really got on with that older generation of DJs. Yeah. Like, we had a lot of the same core values about it being very musical driven. Yeah. you know, and I think that was the calling really. Like I was bumping into Kerry and Todd
Yeah.
4 or 5 times a year. So I was
Right.
like, right, you know, these are becoming my mates now.
Yeah.
Like see them all the time on the road. So yeah, I wanted to help promote, like I said, the origins of the music.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know, really. It just felt like the right time.
Excellent. I love that. I love that it went full circle for you as well. It's like it's sort of unimaginable because obviously with all anyone who's a really like diehard lover of electronic music, they'll have all seen all the documentaries and everything of like when they started and they like the way they did it, where they were just making tunes for radio, and it was a very DIY scene, and to be able to get in the studio with them and them see what it's became and how far it's travelled. Like that's another thing when it becomes to travel. When you've went over to America or as you say South America, is it not a weird feeling that when you're there you come out and like these people know your music already and it's maybe somewhere you've never been in the world? Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, I don't know if it's a weird feeling. It's like quite a warming and a welcoming feeling because you know, you go somewhere, if you can't speak the language, as soon as you start playing, you're tuned in with them, you know, and there could be thousands of people there, and you're on the same
music is
wavelength.
universal, isn't it? It's like universal language, isn't it?
Yeah.
100%.
So that's been like really reassuring, actually. Sometimes.
That it's fascinating. I love the fact that your music's getting that far into like non-English speaking worlds as well. Like that for me it must be a surreal feeling.
I mean it is. Yeah, it's amazing. That I mean the power of the internet has definitely helped with that.
This is going to be a random question, but is there a track that's maybe sort of bigger in one say South America than there is in the UK? Like
of my tracks.
Yeah. So like,
oh God, I actually don't know, man.
You don't know?
It's a tough question. Yeah, I just know that I can be a lot more versatile when I'm in places like South America because you usually play for longer as well.
Yeah.
You know, it's not unknown for me to do 8 hours in South America sometimes.
That's great.
I love that. Or more.
I love
that. So you can really dig into your collection and play some wacky records, and they go off.
When you play there, when just say you've done one of these longer sets, maybe not 8 hours, say like anywhere longer than an hour.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself at a starting point and going on a proper journey? Do you like speed up the BPMs or slow them down?
Totally. I'm probably thinking an hour and someone described it to me as like playing chess once. He's like, you're not DJing, bro, you're playing chess. Or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's quite a good analogy, really.
It's a psychological warfare, isn't it?
Yeah. Like, well, the short term, I'm thinking 3-4 records ahead. Like, this one's going to go into that one, which will lead into this one quite nicely.
Yeah.
But then in an hour or in 2 hours, where do we want to be musically, like genre-wise? So it's how do we, like, transition to that as seamlessly as possible?
Yeah. And then where you start and where you finish is two completely different sort of
can be
places. Excellent.
Which is wild because when I was playing bounce, it was like 3 minutes a track, you know what I mean? Bam, 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 fading like Andy Whitby and...
you don't see many other DJs up and down the volume like that.
Do you not?
Not in house music.
Oh,
though,
not
do
in
you?
house.
No. It's a very gradual, groovy thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
But whereas you see them in the hard house, especially the hard house scene, when they play the sort of NRG filthy hoovers, you see them and they're dropping it, and it's like, whoa,
with all the fills in the tracks, drop it out for a bar. I love all that as well, though.
Hammering the effects as well. It's just it's two different worlds really when you think about it.
But I think age has probably played a part in me like slowing down the tempo as well and being more patient with DJ sets and stuff. You know, I couldn't have stayed at 150 BPM and like chopping all the time. I couldn't be doing that 10-15 years later.
You'd have arthritis by now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So we'll sort of move on from that sort of section and move up to sort of like, we'll go like 2018, 2019, 2020, just before COVID.
Yeah.
You really started to like blow up. Like, I think, don't mind me saying, this is when the social media game came in and you could see that you were growing as an artist massively. You could see... You'd post a picture here, there, and everywhere of where you were and what you were up to.
I was travelling a lot at that time.
Yeah. So how was that for you then?
Yeah, well, you know, like you said, 2018, 2019, And then 2020, I had an amazing year planned for 2020.
Yeah.
Like pretty much the whole summer was planned out, gigs, tours, whatever.
Yeah.
And then obviously COVID happened, and yeah, mate, it's just everything stopped. So life changed a lot for the next few years, really.
Yeah. Did you find yourself? I know I've asked a lot of producers who's came on here the same question. Did you find yourself writing COVID music? Do you know where I mean?
Kind of, yes. I started another alias
Right.
at that time because I didn't want to be like, oh, okay, write COVID music under my own name
Yeah.
because hopefully it ain't gonna last forever.
Yeah.
So I started this alias called Denton,
Right.
which was more about collaborating with singers and songwriters.
Right.
So yeah, we got a lot of support actually. Me and the singers from Danny Howard on Radio 1.
Right.
He signed most of the tracks to his label, Nothing Else Matters.
Right.
So that was more like song-based, radio-friendly, more commercial dance music.
Excellent. I always ask that because a lot of people's sound changed during it because they were making tunes for people in the bedrooms. It wasn't for people in the clubs because there was no clubs open.
Yeah, exactly. And I was doing that, but I didn't want
Yeah.
to do it under my own name, so
Yeah.
I started this other thing.
So, what was the Josh Butler alias? What was happening during COVID? Were you
I don't think there was a lot happening, to be honest.
right?
Okay. I did a few weeks, maybe a month of like writing tunes for Josh Butler.
Yeah.
And then I just ran out of ideas and momentum because all my inspiration was coming from gigs.
Yeah.
So like I'd come back from a weekend of amazing gigs and I'd be fired up to make more tracks.
Because you've seen what's working on the dance floor and yeah.
Just in tune with that vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, obviously like a few weeks of not going out and not socializing. I was living on my own at the time as well. So
Mm-hmm.
it was like just started climbing the walls really. It was wild. I was like, the last thing I want to do is make dance music. Yeah.
It's a good idea to have that little spin off though. I think that's
Yeah,
quite
yeah, it helped me a lot actually. Just like having online sessions with these singers,
Yeah.
and getting out of that dance floor headspace and going into something more radio friendly. And yeah, it worked. We got some good plays on Radio 1 from Danny.
Yeah, that's excellent, mate. That's excellent. So, as clubs and everything start to open back up after COVID, did you feel like you had to build that momentum back up that you'd been working on prior?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean a lot changed. Like as I said before, there's a lot of TikTok DJs now.
Yeah.
And I sort of fell out of love with it. It took me a while to get hungry for it again, I think. But yeah, definitely more motivated now than I have been in the past 3 years.
I've found, obviously, you've got schedules and stuff like that with releases and stuff, but I found it was only maybe the second half of 2022 where you started hearing club music again.
Yeah.
Because there was obviously a backlog of stuff that people had produced in lockdown and it's been brought out. And then, as you say, it'd be like TikTok tunes where it's like short attention span tunes and stuff like that.
Exactly.
And then now, the club music thing's starting to come back in, like, for the last 6 months, 8 months.
Do you think that like the revolution of bounce and this new wave of donk and that, do you reckon that's a backlash from all the chilled stuff from COVID? Now that we're like tempos are high and the energy's high again in music, people want something more banging.
I don't. I'll be honest
No.
with you. No, I don't. I know a lot of people will think that, but my opinion's different. I think it's because, do you not think when you see all these young producers who are sort of breaking out now, and it's like they wouldn't have had somebody to say that's not right. We don't do house music like that in clubs. When you see, like, you'll always see somebody who's a peer who's been around longer than you have, and they're like, they'll give you feedback on tunes and stuff like that. If you played it out, they'd be like, it's not really something we do. But
Yeah.
whereas people more experimental and they don't know they're doing.
That's a good point.
Not wrong, but they're doing
Just
differently.
yeah.
Yeah. So when you hear a donk bass line in a house tune, it's like somebody's just made that in the room because they don't know any different.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's happened there.
And
I
there's
think
a lot of nostalgia around it as well, isn't there?
yeah, it does get its little booms every couple of years. There's like a little spike of like people just having a little reliving the youth a little bit. Maybe.
Yeah. There's a lot of that, isn't there?
Yeah, but that's what I think's happened. I think that you've seen these artists come along now who've putting donks in the tunes and the speeding it up as well. It's like 140 now, like
Massively, yeah.
and I think it's because they've sat in their room and thought, this sounds good. Rather than someone say to them,
Yeah,
I think
that's
you
not
should do
right.
it like this.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like, oh, 1, 2, 5 is what we do. It's like, I'll do whatever feels right.
Yeah, and
which
if
is
it
good.
if it works on dance floors, that's what I was
Yeah.
saying before. You test it out at the weekend, and
Yeah.
I mean,
Long may it last, but I don't know if it will. It's trends. It comes and goes.
Right.
I think there's always going to be a cycle of where I think there'll be a big boom in deep house music again, whether it's next year or next 10 years. I think there's going to be one where it's prominent again. Same goes for tech. I think tech is on a downwards thing, but I think it will come back stronger.
yeah,
And
I think you're right.
it's just
It happened with minimal and
happened with garage.
new disco. Yeah, garage.
Yeah, garage. I remember when I first started out DJing, it's up north. I think garage was a very like you don't want to be associated with that.
Right.
And then you see all these cool kids who's on it now, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, right. Then that'll die down, and then the next
Different interpretations of
Yeah.
that sound as well, innit?
Yeah.
Like that minimal garage is really trendy now.
Yeah, and as I say, the 1 minute it'll be cool, what next minute won't be. But just stick to what you like, and it'll work. And hopefully, these guys who are doing bits at the minute with the 140 sort of pumping sound, hopefully they stick at that as well.
Yeah.
and that becomes their scene.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's like. So, do you know the history of like tech house and stuff like that, like where it originates and stuff?
Yeah. Like Terry Francis. And,
Yeah, yeah.
And the
So, like-
Fabric guys.
Yeah, so it's like was it Croydon in London, I think,
Yeah.
or that area. So
Yeah,
he's
South London.
South London,
Fabric was a massive part of it.
Yeah. So if you listen to the records they were putting out, it doesn't sound like what tech house is today. It's very musically, and it's
It's quite rolling, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Percussive, and quite tribally.
Yeah, but and then you listen to what it's evolved to today. I think that, in my opinion, I think it's just spikes of interest.
Yeah.
And people are jumping in on or hearing it for the first time, doing their interpretation of it, and that's what it becomes. And then as times went by, that's what it's evolved into. So who's to say that bounce won't evolve into a 140 scene with a clubheads inspired sound and stuff? Like you might the 150 might disappear. I don't know. You just don't know, do you?
I would love to see it anyway if all that came back and stayed.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, man.
So what? Before we move on to the questions and stuff, what was what are you up to at the minute? What's the plans going ahead? I know plans change and always, but what have you got confirmed that's coming up for you within the next months to the summer?
Yeah. So a US tour, going to be over there for 2 weeks.
Excellent, mate. Where you going?
So LA,
Right.
San Diego, Montreal, Canada.
Right.
Doing the Grand Prix in Montreal, which is a wild one.
That's a random one. Definitely.
Random, mate.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
playing
yeah.
that with Duke Dumont, so that'll be cool.
What's the California scene like then? So because you say you're going to San Diego.
Yeah, it's really good.
Is
it's
it?
really, really good at the moment? Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, they're right into it. And plus, it's right on the border of Mexico, isn't it? So, the Mexico scene's really good, really strong as well.
Yeah.
So what else? I mean, a few other cities in America. I can't remember off the top of my head. But also got El Ro and Ibiza. That'll
Yeah.
be a big one.
Excellent. It always looks like banging there. Like,
Yeah, it's mad, innit?
always, yeah.
All like actors on stilts and everybody's dressed up. There's confetti everywhere.
Big production values.
Yeah, massive.
Yeah. And it seems to be it's that the summer vibes and everything like that. That's the central hub. That everything around Ibiza during the summer, it's always one that stands out as well when you see it.
Yeah, well, it works really well on social media as well, doesn't it? 'Cause
Yeah.
it looks so amazing.
Yeah.
It's very like Instagrammable.
Yeah. As sad as that is, it's true.
That's
isn't it?
part
Yeah.
of the success
It's
of it.
part
Yeah.
of it.
But
yeah.
El Ro has actually been going since the 80s, I believe. I think that family have been in the entertainment business forever, like generations of them being in entertainment.
Yeah.
It was like started as like a circus act,
Right.
and then they morphed that with dance music,
And it
just
works. It
took
works.
off.
Yeah. Anything else coming up? Have you got any releases due out?
Yeah,
or?
release on Defected in June.
Excellent.
That's always a good one.
Yeah.
Focusing a lot on Origins this year as well.
Fantastic, mate. I like that.
So we're doing, do you know ADE in October
Yeah.
in Amsterdam?
Yeah.
So we're doing a showcase,
that'll be
Origins
good.
and Rejected, like a joint label
Yeah.
party together.
Excellent, mate. So, do you go out for ADE for the full thing?
I will this year, I think. Yeah.
Have you've been before then?
Yeah. Most years. Didn't go last year, but yeah, been pretty much every other year.
How do you find that then? Because obviously,
Hectic.
a lot of people, because there's a lot of insider industry people there. I would say you're probably quite recognisable as well.
Yeah.
When you're out and about.
Yeah, man. I mean, the whole industry's there, so you just walk down the streets and you see everyone. Do you know what I mean? You'll see DJs or people who work at labels and agents and managers. It's the place for the music industry. Like, the music industry takes over Amsterdam for the week.
Yeah.
In the day, it's all meetings and lectures and showcases of new, maybe like Roland would have like we've got a new drum machine coming out.
Yeah.
And then the
It's
night time,
big marketing thing as well.
yeah, massively. And then at the night time, it's all like parties and raves in old warehouses and stuff. It's ace.
One thing I've seen with it as well, because there's a lot of aspiring producers, DJs, even singers and anyone in the industry. There's like even managers who's looking for, or label owners who's looking for new talent.
Yeah.
And it's like, you'll see that you see these parties and a lot of them aren't drinking. A lot of them are like seeing who's popping and what's going on. And I think that's amazing, like how the Europeans do it as well. Like, I went to a techno rave in Berlin, and I was just, because I sort of taught really uneducated mind of, oh, it must be just like a British rave and you just go in and that's it. You go in and there's a lot of people there who's not drinking. They're just there and they're just analysing the music. Like,
yeah, totally.
It's they're not like raving like like British people would. Obviously you have got that group, but there's a lot of people who are aspiring artists and they're seeing how people are DJing or what sounds work on the dance floor, and you can see them assessing it, and it's just mind blowing.
Being inspired and being in the environment. I think. Yeah.
Excellent.
I've done a lot of that myself over the years. I mean, I wasn't always sober, but I'd often just like stand there and take it in, and soak it all up.
Yeah.
That's when you get back to the studio on Monday morning.
And you're like,
you got all your inspiration. Yeah,
I'm the same. I still do it now. Like, I'll purposely, like, if I've got a gig, and because I don't go out partying or anything like that. I've sort of retired myself from that quite early on. I'm an all or nothing type person, so it's like one of them. If you go in, you go in. Like, it's going in hard, and that's not a good lifestyle for me.
No, I don't think it's good for anyone. All day, every day.
Yeah. So when I go to gigs now, I'll go like a couple hours before, and I'll just see what other people are up to, because obviously you can listen to as much music as DJs are putting out and stuff like that, but when you're seeing it on the dance floor and you're seeing, oh, that works, right, okay, oh, that doesn't work, I thought that would have worked, and like it's the more psychology side of it.
Oh, totally, mate. I say that to some people when I try and describe what I do. Someone who's not in music. Yeah. I'll always try and say there's like a lot of crowd psychology that goes on, and sometimes I like. Really?
Yeah, the look at you as if you're backwards. A lot of people, you see some, like, there's a young guy who's bought a set of techs I work with, and he's going, right, I want to be a DJ, I want to do this, and in his head it's like, oh, like, because he's saying to me, he's like, why wouldn't you play this tune? Because he sent me like a mix of like it was 10 tracks or something like that, and every one of them, don't get me wrong, they're all bangers, but it's just all bangers, and it's like, why would you not play that, everyone play that set? And it's like, you need to understand that if you're at a party and you just played them 10 bangers, how many times have they been played in that night? How are you burning the crowd out? Or
and do you know what, like, talking of burning the crowd out, like when I was playing at Beaverworks back in the day, that night I told you about, I was doing all my Mr. stuff at like 1:50, but they put me on early. Right. And I'd still stick to what I was doing, and that like pissed a few people off. But I wasn't just playing like every banger that everyone else had. I was playing tunes that I'd made. Yeah. Because I obviously wanted to test them out. But yeah, some people used to like be like, "Fuck, I can't believe you're playing that shit." It's just
young, isn't it? I thought it's young and naive.
I was young, and that was what I was. That was what I was into and producing. So. Later did start to respect the warm-up a lot more. Yeah. But
it's the other way for me now, though. Yeah. I'm at the thing, I play quite a lot of warm-up. I prefer the warm-up of anything in the bounce scene, because obviously it's a fast-paced scene. Yeah. I play my music 140 to 145 max, really. So when I'm playing at 140, people are like, "Come on." I'm getting looked at funny as if to say.
Well, that's fine
"Come
then,
on,
and if
switch it
they're
up."
ready,
Yeah.
happy days.
Yeah, you
Sometimes
have
I'll be
to.
playing to an empty room.
Yeah. 150
But I
is
was like, oh, I
blaring.
made this last week. I wanted to test it out.
There's nothing, honestly, I've done that myself, mate. I've played to an empty room, right? And there's nothing, I don't care if there's house DJs out there watching this, right? You've not experienced failing as a DJ until you've played faster music, whether it be bounce or hardcore, right? Playing to a room of no one and just hearing a reverbed donk hit you back in the face.
So true.
It's because you can play a house and it's quite groovy, and you might it's just
Yeah, it can be soulful and cool.
yeah. And there could be no one there, and you could just sort of whatever.
Yeah.
If you're playing 150 plus music, right, and there's nobody there, all you can hear is the reverb of the donk back off the wall, and it's like,
Yeah. There's no,
do you know where I'm coming from?
there's no swagger to donk, really, is there?
No,
Whereas you can get away with playing house to empty rooms because it's cool and like groovy.
Yeah.
Whereas donk's just fucking driving.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's when you say I always admire Pasha Ibiza. But, do you know, like it's like the sunset and it's a bit chilled out and everyone's just there and the music's playing as the sun sets. It's all magical.
Yeah.
You couldn't do that with bounce music.
No
right?
way.
No, and it's one of them things as well. I imagine it would be the same feeling to if you pulled out a big massive bass line and slammed it in there. The look that you would get, it would be the same feeling as donk DJs get when they play to an empty room. And as I say, you're just looking thinking, what am I
Everyone's
doing?
offended.
Yeah. And you're just getting the dirtiest looks ever. But yeah, mate, we'll just move on to the questions now, if that's okay. Unless you've got anything else to plug.
No, I'm game for questions. I'm intrigued to see what people have been asking.
Yes. So they don't know who the guests are coming on. So these are just questions for the pod.
Cool.
Basically, the way this works is I put it out on the Patreon and I put it out in the community group online saying questions for the podcast. It could be anything at all, but a lot of them sort of link to previous episodes, and a lot of them are food related, a lot of them are music related, and a lot of them are travel related. That tends to be what we talk about on the podcast. If you've got any questions for the podcast, get on to us at Instagram at itstimetoriffresh, and just drop us a message of your question. And if you want it anonymous, just put anonymous at the end because, as I say, a lot of people don't want the questions asked. We've had some feedback ones where it's like people who're starting out and they want advice from, and it's like they don't necessarily want their name to be thrown in the mix.
Yeah.
So that's essentially why. Or if you do want your name, or if you want a stupid name like some people write, then go for it. So first question. Oh yeah, Brad. That's what they've wrote. That's what they've said. Yeah, if you could give one piece of advice to yourself from 10 years ago regarding music, what would it be? And that's from Joe Reed. So what advice would you give to yourself in 2013 that you wish you knew that you know now?
Always get a music lawyer to look at your contracts.
Oh, so you've been stung.
I mean, a lot of people have.
Yeah.
Most people have, you know.
Yeah.
So anyone who's getting contracts and that, anyone who's starting to make some waves, yeah, just get someone who knows what they're talking about to look over what you're signing.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. I won't drop names, but I know some friends have recently got contracts, and they are now very frustrated. I need to word this without sounding thing. They're very frustrated that they can't put any music out now. It's coming up to the summer, and they're ready to put out stuff, and they've been told to hold back on everything.
That's bad, that.
And
Yeah, they've got like an exclusive deal or something.
yeah, so they don't want, because I think what's happened is they've signed a contract, and the label that's took them on wants to mould their image. They want to. Do you know where I'm coming from?
Yeah, that's never a good place to be.
Yeah, but I think it's because they've had a big tune, and then
They want more. The label wants another one.
Yeah, but you can't go and throw out tunes without their approval. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which it's if they knew they were getting into that, I don't know if they would have took the same situation.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the best bit of advice I could give anyone.
That's fantastic, mate. That's something for those who are watching it who are you're not your common listener, you're raver listening to it. We do get a few ravers who do listen to it, but at the same time, insider knowledge where it's like, that's so helpful to those who need to hear it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean that obviously only applies to people
artists,
producing and want
yeah.
to make something of it. You know.
Absolutely. My 10 years ago is just take your time and don't force things to do it all at once. Where it's like, I need to do this because someone else is doing it. I need to do this. Just focus on your path. That's as simple as I could put it. Because once you start focusing on your path, you notice that the ball starts rolling. Because if you're trying to do a million different things at once because somebody else is getting success or you like what they're doing, then it's not always going to work out for you.
And you spread yourself thin then, don't you?
I think work towards what you want and what you enjoy. That's my advice I give myself. I wouldn't give that to anybody else because it sounds too philosophical. But it's one of them. It's like if myself, I'd have to tell myself just take your time. Don't rush. I know you're eager, but just take your time.
Yeah, I think being an artist is philosophical, innit? You know, and I've always, maybe I romanticize it a bit, but it is quite a deep personal thing, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You've got to look at it from all angles like that.
My mates call me like absolute idiot for like, because the way I look at my what I put out as like a legacy. Like this is what people will remember me as.
That's ace. I love that.
Yeah, no, but like I've just got. You're going to be the first one to get this. I think I've just put a little intro at the beginning. It's because I've usually got the it's time to refresh sort of thing at the beginning of this. I found a quote online and I was just like, wow, this is good. And it was Robin Williams saying, "There's nothing as I'm just sort of paraphrasing it, but there's nothing that like happiness than knowing that you've made 20 people in the world." You've made it a better place for them. So that's what I like to do with this podcast. It's getting really deep now, but it's one of them things. Like I know that it feels good that 5 or 6 people have watched this and went, yeah, like you've made give it a different aspect on how you look at things or how you produce music. And it's like, if you've made that change, then that's all the happiness you can ask for, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I can relate to that a lot because I think, you know, in the early days, I was only making tunes for me. And even if no one ever listened and I ended up working in a different aspect of the music industry, I still would have been satisfied.
Yeah.
And just making tunes in my bedroom for me.
Yeah.
You know, or maybe, like they said, a couple of people.
Yeah, I know it is when you say you romanticize it. I don't think you are. I think a lot of people feel it, but they're scared to talk about it because it's like might come across as wrong. Like I don't want to come across like it's been a bit poncy, but it's like I care about what I put out, and
so you should.
Yeah,
it's got your name on it.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. But you care about and you overthink things. Like someone might listen to one of your tunes and be like, "Oh, right, so he's done that." But to you, you're so connected to it on a deeper level, and it's only when sometimes you have to explain tunes to people where they're like, "Ah, that makes sense." Like. I watched your uncut that you did, and you explained a couple of things of why you put that ambience in there, or why you've done that, or where you took that inspiration from. And every time I hear that record, it's like, oh yeah. Then I'll go out my way and I'll listen to the record it was inspired from. And it's like, because you connect with people on a different level. I think that's what music is, isn't it? Like I'm just trying to like beat around it, but music is like one of them things that you don't realize of how many people you connect to. Like you can consume TV. Netflix is a big thing at the minute. It's just a content machine with the latest series, the latest thing, and people get attached to these things. But music's always a constant in my life, as is for other people, and they'll attach memories to when they hear a tune. They might hear your latest tune at the next gig, and they'll look back in 10 years and it's like, yeah. That was my youth.
Yeah,
memories,
that
was my youth.
Yeah. That's what it is all about, isn't it?
Sorry for going off on one there, but I just felt like it was maybe needed to like say, because sometimes I sit there and I think to myself, am I just overthinking this? Like, am I the one that's different to everybody else? Like, they just want to throw out a donk tune and, oh, look at this, a remix of the latest donk tune. Or even in other styles of music, it's like, oh, I'm just doing this groove, what do you reckon? And it's like, I look at things on such a deeper level that maybe sometimes it's like, am I taking this too far?
There's a bit of both, yeah. I do have to reel myself in sometimes and go, you know, it's not that deep. Just make a banger.
Yeah, that's exactly
there
it.
There is
like,
a bit of that as well.
It's a balance, isn't it? Yeah. Next question. If you were to go on a panel / game show, which one would it be and why? And that's from Jamie Johnson. If it's Jamie I'm thinking of, nice question, Jamie. Hope you're all right.
I'm going to let you take this.
Panel show. See, I've read this question. I've thought about it. And mine's still blank. I'd always like because this is a nostalgia thing for me. I always like Countdown. like I go on Countdown.
Countdown's class.
Yeah, I think I do pretty well as well because I'm quite good at maths. Mental maths quite good at as well. I maybe fail as on the. I'd never done well on making 9-letter words and stuff, so I'd be like, I just entertain them whilst everyone else is singing.
What's the one where you've got all the fucking forgetting the name of the show now, but it's like a big screen and then it flips round with bits of a big picture. And you have to guess what it is. Catchphrase, mate.
You go on that, yeah.
That one,
Catchphrase is a legendary one. A few honourable mentions though. I would like to go on. What's the one with Bradley Walsh called? Do you know which?
Deal or No Deal?
No. That's Noel Edmonds, isn't it? No, is it Bradley Walsh? He's called. I'm sure it is.
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean. The Chase.
The Chase. I'd love to do that.
Yeah, I don't watch much TV, mate. So
I don't have a TV license.
No, I don't either.
So I'd just love to get on that Chase and just go face to face with them, knowing that they're just going to absolutely obliterate me.
Yeah, I wouldn't get anywhere on that.
Yeah. And other sort of game shows. I always thought I'd make a good Big Brother contestant, but as I've got older and older, I thought I'm getting more boring. So I think I'd probably be the first voted out now. But when I was 17, I'd have won that. Any other shouts that you would game shows?
Nah, not really.
I'm a massive fan of comedy, so I'd like to maybe have sat like as a fly on the wall on Mock the Week. I'd sit there on the panel and I'd just let everyone else do the talking. I'd just be like,
yeah,
this is
I
good.
do watch that from time to time.
This is cool. Good. Yeah. So nice question, Jamie. I appreciate that one. That was pretty good, that question. So the next sort of section, this is the Flopper Bop. Have you seen this at all?
No.
So Flopper Bop is I'm gonna give you 5 tracks. I think you'll know them all, and you've got to just tell me flop or bop. If I disagree with you,
flop or bop. Love it. Okay, I hope I know all these.
Yeah, I think you will. Basically, it's what people have wrote in. When I've asked for tracks, this is what people have wrote in. There is some bangers, there is some not so good bangers, and you just tell me.
I'm just going to say I'm terrible with track names, so I actually might not know some of them. But fire
I'll sing
away.
them to you. One of the guys who was on a couple of weeks ago, he knew the tune and he still made me sing it right. And then just like it was Toto Africa, and like, everyone knows that tune. Obviously, I'm going to try and do that high pitched. I can't sing as it is. But yeah, don't make me sing them, please.
All right,
if you know
go
them.
on, let it go on.
So this is Flop or Bop with Josh Butler. The Shapeshifters, Lola's theme. Flop or Bop?
Bop. Yeah,
nice,
banger.
Class. That's one of them. It's a divisive one as well. People are always like, oh, I hate this or I love it. It's a Marmite tune. Yeah. I love it. It's such a good tune. You don't hear it in clubs and it's a shame, really. But I love that. Tidy Girl, Screwdriver.
Yeah, probably Bop.
Bop.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Bop. Stardust, Music Sounds Better With You.
Yeah, it's a bop.
That's a bop.
Yeah.
I've never ever heard that in a club as well. It's always been a radio tune. I've always heard it on radio or Spotify.
Or like cocktail bars, you know.
And it's a banger. It's
a
banger. And the last one, this is a bit of a throwback for you. Paradise See the Light.
Yeah, I think it's a flop for me, that.
Yeah, everyone's entitled to their opinion, man. It's overplayed as out for me, so I would never ever play it out myself. I don't think, just because I'm sick of the vocal. But for me, it's a bop because it's a legendary tune.
It is a legendary tune. Don't get me wrong. It's just a little bit cheesy for me.
Yeah.
At the moment. Excellent,
mate. Thanks for participating in Flop or Bop.
I enjoyed that. I want more now.
Yeah. Honestly, do you know when you say about the TikTok generation? I always chop that bit out and put it on just because I know people enjoy it.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how many people would enjoy it. So it's
That's
it's
cool.
the one every week. It's the one that always does really well on online on TikTok. This one is unpopular opinions. Before we tie it up today, so this is also from people who've wrote in the community group. You just tell me if you agree or disagree. So unpopular opinions. Is it Bouncy House or is it Bootleg House? And that's from Heath Bounce. Nice one for the question, mate. So I don't know if you pay attention to the scene nowadays, but a lot of the music is
remixes. Yeah,
bootlegs, just constant bootlegs.
Yeah, of course.
Originality's just not there.
Yeah, maybe it isn't bounce anymore. I think it is technically bounce, isn't it? But I'm thinking of tunes like Action DBC. You know, these were original fucking bangers, mate.
Oh my god! I'm gonna send this to DBC. Josh Butler approves of.
Mate, I love everything DBC has done. Big fan.
He's a very good musician.
Sick
DBC.
guy. You should connect me with him. I'd love to speak to him.
You should love to party with him. He goes in heavy.
Really?
Yeah.
Keep up these days.
But yeah, he's a sound guy.
Ace. But yeah, I mean, I know what you're saying about the bootleg thing.
What's it like in your scene then? So when you go to a club now or a festival or whatnot,
It's becoming a bootleg thing.
is it?
Yeah, massively.
Right.
There's lots of
that's interesting.
milkshake remixes and
Mm-hmm.
you know the same old tunes from back in the day that just get bootlegged.
Right. Is it the nostalgia thing, do you think?
Yeah,
Is
definitely.
it just because I see? I obviously watch the Creamfields. I don't go Creamfields nowadays. I'm too old for that. Like, not that I'm too old for it, but my head's too old for it. I don't think I could hack a
I
full
wouldn't
weekend
go
of it.
Greenfields now.
Yeah. But
Not as a punter anyway.
yeah. I'd 100% play there. But yeah, I couldn't hack a weekend of that. I'd just end up off the rails. But like, I seen the live stream videos, and it's like just classics constantly revamped. And same in the bounce scene, it's the same. I'm not going to say it's not. It's either the latest chart tune that's been vocal removed. Do you know
Yeah,
where it's like
yeah,
really
yeah.
tinny sounds in it? It's like Miracle's been a big one lately. Right. Miracle's been absolutely hammered. There's about 500 different bounce remixes of it, right? But I mean, it's a great tune, don't get me wrong, but it's just hammered. And then you get I always use this one as the analogy, and to be fair, it's a great tune. I just feel bad for saying it, but the Rhythm of the Night,
Yeah.
it's always gonna be remixed. Same goes for Apollo Dance. Just all Clubland classics that just get
Even Till Tears was a big one, wasn't it? That got remixed a billion times.
Yeah, we've talked about this so much on the podcast.
Yeah,
but
really?
Yeah, because there's been a lot of hard house heads who's been on, and we've talked about it. But they did like the release that Tidy did, the 7,000 remixes of Till Tears, like you know, and yeah, I think they called it Milked.
Love that.
But yeah, that's another one of them tunes that's had so many remixes, and it's like I'm always a hunter for new music, and I think that's what annoys me.
And it does still exist, especially in the house scene. That's why I love that house music scene. I'm still in it because there are a lot of amazing vocalists that are a part of that scene. So there's new stuff being written and recorded all the time.
Yeah. Do you think, this is a question from me, this isn't on there, do you think it's quite hard to break a new vocal tune when you play it? Is it like
Yeah, it probably
to
is.
catch on?
It's hard. Yeah, it's harder than a remix. A remix is the easy. A bootleg is the easy option, isn't it? But
Yeah.
it's not impossible.
Yeah.
What was the? Sorry to interrupt there, but there was one on Trick recently. Was it Shaq's one? That's pretty sure that's an original vocal.
It
At
is.
least
It's
I've not heard the
is
sample
it
before.
Kim English that?
Could be.
Is it you?
That
Got
she
Me
sang
Drunk?
it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think I'm probably wrong, and I'm going to sound like a complete tithead, but I think it's Kim English who done the original vocal.
Yeah. Right. I've never heard the original personally, but yeah, that's.
It's just it's like literally it's been sampled pretty well, to be fair, like the way they made that groove out of it, but it is an original vocal from somewhere. But as I say, these tunes are getting bigger, and it's one of them, isn't it? It's like because people can relate to them. Who was it? Is it you? Oh, what's his name? I'm so bad. with
Ewan
him.
MacGyver.
Yeah, he did. Tell Me Something Good. That was that vocal was from an old record as well, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And that done bits that as well. So it's one of them things. People chase the nostalgia, but then when you come up with like really I was talking to Dave Gray about it. It's when you can reinvent a tune. I'll tell you something in a minute, but when you reinvent a tune and you make it your own, it's special. Just like Dave did. I think he's done a remix of the Bisto advert from like the early 90s, and honestly it's so cheesy, and he played it to me and I was like, I fucking love this is so good because it's inventive and I've never heard it being used in that context. Why not remix it?
Yeah.
Shout to
A lot
Dave
of
on
people
that
won't
tune.
know that it's from Bisto. Well, they will now.
Yeah, but it's so good. Like, I love it. Last one for today, and that is Oggy 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 should be banned, and that's from Alan James. This is more of a bounce scene thing, but is there a host situation within the house scene? Do you get hosts who?
Not in the UK. In fact, trying to think, not really anywhere apart from Holland. Holland love an MC. And when I say MC, I don't mean like Scouse House or
no,
drum and
just
bass MC, but someone between the DJ
sets,
or
introducing.
maybe halfway through a set, they'll jump on the mic and
Hype
get
it
everyone
up.
hyped.
Yeah, I respect that. I think that's really good.
Yeah, I like it personally. Big fan of it.
I do. It's one of them things. It's just a little reminder that you're there and you're live, and it's about to go off. I love that.
Yeah, me too.
Right. So before we tie today up, mate, I asked this to everybody. You're about to get executed because electric chair job, because you're in America and that's what happens in America. And you get one last meal. You're allowed a starter, a main, a dessert, and a beverage. What are you having?
Oh, mate, putting me on the spot here. Starter. What would the starter be? But you might have to edit me thinking out here.
It's all right, mate. Don't worry about it. I'll answer. Well, okay. I've done this 53 episodes in now, and people always ask me what mine is. So I'll share my starter with you. I'll drip feed you it, right? I don't smoke weed or anything like that, as much as I'd love to, just through work. I get drug tested and stuff, so I can't really do it. Shouldn't be really saying this on the podcast, but I don't care. If I was to get the electric chair and I'm on my way out, I know I haven't got work on Monday, I'm just going to have a bag full of edibles before I have my mains. So there's my answer.
That's a shout. I might join you on that.
So I'd have a big bag of edibles, right? And then I just sit there and absolutely appreciate the flavours of my main. I'm not going to tell you what the main is yet, though. So go on then, if you had a think.
Okay, no, so the starter for me, I don't get drug tested at work, thankfully. So I'm going to have like garlic mussels to start.
Right.
With crusty bread.
Okay.
So we dip it in the oil and stuff. And then for the main, I think I'm going to have lasagna. Big, healthy slice of lasagna.
Yeah.
And then
you're on your way out. You don't need to watch your weight, mate.
Yeah. Then dessert.
Do you have a garlic bread with yours?
Yeah, we were having a garlic bread, and probably a little side salad as well.
Okay.
Bit of rocket. Love a bit of rocket.
I like it with the, what's the sweet oil? I like that on my salad. I don't look like a salad eater, but I am a salad eater.
Balsamic.
Yeah, like a balsamic, yeah.
And then dessert, maybe like a creme brulee or something.
Creme brulee is a shout.
Yeah.
I'd have the munchies mega at this point, so I'd probably go creme brulee or tiramisu.
Tiramisu, yeah. Winner.
So when you have I'm really passionate about food, as you can tell, but when you have your lasagna, what style garlic bread do you have on the side? Do you have the one that's like a loaf?
Cheesy, probably a flat cheesy garlic bread.
A flat one, yeah. Yes. Good choice. And so what beverage are you going to wash that down with?
Probably a pint.
Of?
Yeah. Peroni.
Peroni, good shout.
Don't really have a go-to beer, but like Moretti's a good one.
Yeah.
Joy Moretti.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Nice. I just want to say thank you for coming on today, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I've loved the podcast.
Yeah, I've loved it. Yeah,
I wanted to pick your head for so long because obviously you messaged me last year, and I was like, Josh is coming on. I'm telling you now because I've got so many questions.
Yeah, no, we had to make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to say thank you for coming on,
Pleasure,
mate.
Man.
If you've enjoyed this, go and check Josh out. Where can people find you?
All the usual social medias: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Spotify. That's it, mate.
Excellent, mate. Yeah. Excellent. And then if you're out and about in America, go and see him. San Diego crew, you hear me? I just want to say thanks for coming on. If you've enjoyed the podcast, then share it with your mates because that's how this podcast grows. Not everyone in the world gets to see this. So if you see it and you think, my mate might like that, go and share it with them. Send it on WhatsApp. Share it on Facebook, share it on Instagram, whatever. We're just trying to grow this community. And if you really enjoy it and want to support the podcast, you can sign up at Patreon at patreon.com/itstimetoriffresh. It's £3 a month, and that just helps toward production costs and basically just upgrades all the equipment as well. As you can see, the production has got a lot better since we first started, and that's only due to the Patreon. I mean, I have put more money towards it as well, but you know, it's a
helps.
growing thing. It's a growing thing. If you have enjoyed it, then share it with your mates. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next week.